In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the hair onto my witch snuggler. For this hair, it is crocheted on, slip stitch, chained, and then tied in 2 buns on the back of the head. So here I have a head without any hair at all. I will be using a contrast color here so you can see the difference. It's a little bit easier to see than using black yarn on black yarn. So I'm using yellow yarn so you can see the difference between the stitches of the head and the hair that we are working. Locate that singular skin colored stitch in the center of the head and go 1 stitch to the left of that. So you're going to start in the first hair colored stitch by attaching your hair colored yarn. In this case, it is a different color just to show the contrast. You will chain 5. And then you will slip stitch behind the ear. So the stitch just above the ear, you will slip stitch into. From here, you will chain 5 again, and then you will slip stitch into the bottom of the hairline. You will see here that you have your very first stitch where we started using the hair color when creating the head. You will use these 3 stitches and then the 3 stitches from the very last bit of that round to connect your hair. You will have to double up these stitches as you work, but in these first couple, you shouldn't have to. It'll be more towards when we get to the center back of the head. So in the furthest right stitch, you will slip stitch, and then you will chain 10, fasten off, and leave a long tail. I left about an 8-inch tail. So here you have your first finished strand of hair. We will continue this process working all the way around underneath the brim of the hat. Our next strand will be worked in the stitch directly to the left of where we started our first one. You will insert your hook underneath that post, attach a yarn using a slip stitch, and then repeat the exact same process we did with the first strand of hair. So you will chain 5, and then slip stitch just above the stitch you used for the first strand behind the ear. So you will move 1 stitch towards the hat. This should be the stitch that is touching the brim of the hat, and you will slip stitch into it. From here, you will chain 5 and then locate the stitch just to the left of the stitch you used again with the first strand of hair. So you will slip stitch to that second stitch of hair colored yarn on the head, and then you will chain 10, fasten off, and leave a long tail. I left about an 8-inch tail. Now that you have 2 strands of yarn, you can take these tails in the front of the head, hide them in the body. So I just use my hook to get close to where we attach the yarn and pull those beginning tails through to the same point. I tie them together and then trim them, hide them in the head. And now you have 2 strands of yarn that start in the front, are connected right behind the ear, and then go back to the back bottom of the neck. Now you will repeat this process on the other side of the head, starting with the stitch just to the left of that skin colored stitch. So I jumped a little bit ahead here, but I repeated the exact same process that we did with the first half on the second side of the head. I just did the slip stitch, chain 5, slip stitch, chain 5, slip stitch, chain 10, fasten off. And now we've got the sides of the head done. From here, we will move on to the back of the head. You should see these posts that are in the hair colored yarn that touch the hat. You will be working into each of these posts around the back of the head to slip stitch with your hair color, attach that color there, and then chain 5 and connect to the bottom of the neck. You will repeat this process across the entire brim of the hat. When you get to the bottom part of the neck, you will have to reuse these stitches more than once. I think there are 14 stitches at the top and about 6 or 7 stitches at the bottom. So you will have to double up stitches at the bottom of the neck. So here you can see I've attached some of the hair and I've slip stitched at the top of the hair, chain 5, slip stitch at the bottom of the hair, chain 10 and fasten off. So I'm going to show you with these last 2 stitches, they will start in 2 different top stitches and end in the same bottom stitch. I will attach my yarn with a slip stitch and then chain 5, and then from here I will slip stitch in the last available stitch at the bottom of the hair. This is the exact same stitch we will use for the next strand of hair as well. I will now chain 10 and then fasten off my work, leaving a tail about 8 inches long. Now for the last available space along the brim of the hat, I will slip stitch my hair colored yarn, chain 5, and then slip stitch at the bottom of the hair using that same stitch we used with the last strand. So you kind of have to move the strand you've already completed and slip stitch underneath that stitch from the previous strand. Once that is secure, you will chain 10 and fasten off, leaving an 8-inch tail. Once you're done, you can take all these starting tails and weave them in like we did on the front of the head. You can do it as you work or at the end, but either way you will want to hide those in the head, tie them together and fasten them off and tuck them into the head. Now we're going to split the hair down the back of the head into 2 even sections. With one section, we will do an overhand knot to tie a little bun at the bottom of the head. We'll make sure that you pull this snug and then adjust the strands as you see fit and tighten a little bit more. With the other side of the yarn, so your other section, will do the same thing. With an overhand knot, take those strands and tie them into a little bun, adjusting and making sure you like the look of it as you tighten it up. Now we are going to take these 8-inch tails and we are going to locate 3 to 4 stitches underneath the bun that we will weave these tails into. We will insert our hook into the same stitch every time and then pull these tails through those 3 different stitches, exiting in the same stitch every time. So all of those tails will go into 3 or 4 stitches and exit the same point. Now that you have all of your strands tucked into those 4 stitches, I pull each one of them to make sure that those tails are hidden There isn't any slack in that yarn, and the bun is secured against the back of the head. Once you have it snug and exactly how you want it, you tie all of these yarn tails together, make sure they're super secure, and then hide those in the head. And then you repeat the process for the other bun using the exact same method, and you're all done. That is how you complete the hair on my witch snuggler.